Hello again, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the AJ Roberts Show. Got another fascinating episode today. We are joined by none other than Peter Stone, aka Sovereign Pete, founder of the Sovereign Project. This is an episode I've been really looking forward to sharing with you guys because what we're going to share today, what Pete's going to share, is some unbelievably fascinating information that will blow many of your minds. Basically along the lines of how we've been duped since birth. And he's going to go deep into it and explain exactly why, but more importantly, what we can do about it, because it's not as difficult as some may think to actually turn this thing around in our favor. So first of all, Pete, welcome to the show, mate.
Thanks a lot. Good to be here.
So when we talk about like sovereign man, sovereign project, can you briefly just explain like what that kind of really means? Because you hear the term a lot, obviously, like, oh, we're a sovereign being, but what does that actually mean?
That's right. Yeah, we're going to have to start at the very beginning. Really, sovereign means you self-govern. Okay, you have supreme authority over your life. That's what it means. No one else has authority over you. No one else can tell you what to do, and no one else can take your money, anything like that. You are sovereign. Now, that's sovereign in status. And it's not sovereign in title. They're two separate things. A lot of people think, oh, the Queen is sovereign. Well, she is sovereign in title only, not in status. Where she gets her title from, I'm going to have to use some air quotes. I talk in general terms. When you start researching common law, you'll find there's many different layers. Okay, there's no absolute. So I'm going to use a lot of air quotes. So in simplistic layman's terms, the Queen is sovereign in title only, and she gets her sovereign title from the people who are actually sovereign in status. So it is actually the people who are above the Queen, okay? This is actually symbolized in a deck of cards. This is how it's actually, everyone's seen a deck of cards, you've got the different suits, and you've got the ace, king, queen, jack, and all the 10, all the rest of it, okay? The ace is you. You are sovereign in status. You are above all cards. Your ace is high, okay? And then you've got the king, the queen, and the jack. The jack is the government. And underneath all those other numbers, 10, 9, 8, they're different agencies within government. And the one on the very bottom is a number 2 card, which is a police officer. And what people behind government are doing is taking you from the top, putting you at the bottom, making you aces low. So a lot of people go off thinking it's the piece of paperwork that makes you sovereign. No, it isn't. You cannot register anywhere and become sovereign. It's not how it works. It happens in your mind and in your soul. It's in your heart and in your mind. So you will know when it happens to you, because what will happen is you'll wake up one day and you'll know it. You will know that you are sovereign because you will not accept anything from anybody. You will not allow people to tell you what to do anymore. So when you're told, you've got to do this, you have to wear a mask, you go, who says? Who says I've got to wear a mask? That's when you wake up. And this is also when people stop believing in legal fictions like government. Government doesn't exist. It's a legal fiction. It's a corporation. That's all it is. So forget government. Push it to one side. Go after the people behind government. Okay, that's what you start doing, because you start asking who's telling me I've got to do this? Where's the contract? Give me the contract with my name on it and their name on it, with my signature on it, with their signature on it. Well, I've agreed to this. When you become sovereign, you'll know it. You can't fake it. So yes, sovereignty in a nutshell, that's what it is. You don't get it from paperwork, it's from within. It's the same as common law as well.
Yeah. And obviously this is the case actually from birth. You just never taught it because we're born and put directly into a system, their system, or their cult, where we're born, we're brought up by our parents who are in the system as well.
Yes.
Because that's all they know. Then also you go to school, heavily indoctrinated, being taught what they want us to learn. They don't teach you any life skills, pretty much, and then you leave school, and it's set up for failure as well, isn't it? As in, it's set up for you to fail. The pressure that gets put on kiddies nowadays. You've got to do this in your exams, you've got to do that in your exams. When really it's just a retention test, isn't it? How much you can actually remember after sitting up all night revising. Because you don't use pretty much 95% of it you don't use. And then you go into the workforce, and again, it's like you're paying your taxes, you're paying the national insurance, which keeps going up, bills keep going up, but then, and they're all services that actually don't warrant the name that they've put to them. So yeah, we find ourselves in this whole perpetual cycle of paying out, and in slavery, basically, isn't it?
It is. It's bonded slavery. And what's been happening to the average person is getting worse, but basically 95% of the wealth that you generate throughout your entire life, you leave school at 16, you start working, you retire at 65. 95% of the wealth that you generate is going to the people behind government. That's how much they're taking, okay? You've got to look at it not just in money terms, but in wealth, like time, energy, that sort of stuff, okay? They do this through wage compression. That's the worst form of stealing your wealth. So this really got ramped up in 1971 when Nixon took the gold off the monetary system. We went pure fiat. And from that day forth, the true rate of inflation has always been higher than the government has been reporting. Now, inflation is actually the increase in the money supply, not prices going up. Prices going up is actually the symptom of them increasing the money supply. So let's just touch on, you were mentioning it begins when we're born, which is correct. And it's correct, our parents did not know what they were doing. So this is another reason why the government wanted to create state health care, okay, i.e. the national health. One of the reasons is they wanted to control the birth certificate. Okay, so what happens is you are born and then the midwife or the doctor, the nurse will come forward with some paperwork and the parents will sign it and you will register your birth when you were born. What your parents did not know is what was happening is you were being transferred as an infant, newly born child. You were actually being handed over and placed into a trust. So your parents gave away the property rights to you and you were placed in a trust. A live birth certificate was created by people within the Vatican. That live birth certificate has the ability to create unlimited credit in your name. Think of it like a credit card. Keep it nice and simple, all right? So they create this credit card, which is your live birth certificate. But what happens is because they've set this trust up, you, the living, breathing man or woman, using the birth certificate is creating the credit. It makes the people within the Vatican the debtors. They have to pay this back. You're actually creating the credit. They have to pay it back to you. They don't want to do that. So what they do is they sell this debt to governments or give it to governments. And the government's job is to basically sell this debt. So what they do is they'll sell it back to you and trick you into thinking it's a bill. So in layman's terms, everything is already paid for, which is the roads, the electricity, your gas, everything, schools, hospitals, all of that has been paid for using your credit. The Treasury is on the hook to pay that back. They are the debtors. They are the debtors of the government. They sell this on the open market. There's a debt market. So for example, electricity bill, the electricity is already being paid. Okay, your credit paid it. Your credit paid to build that power station and generate the electricity. The government is on the hook to pay that back. They don't do that. So they sell it to a broker masquerading as an electric company, and then they send you a fake bill. You think it's a bill. You think you're paying for the electricity. No, you're already paying for it. You've already paid for it. So then you start making payments at interest. The broker makes the money on the interest. They take that off, and then they pay that to the Treasury, the payments you make. But here's the thing. The Treasury can't spend that money yet. It goes into your trust fund. It sits there waiting for you to collect. Remember, you're the creditor. So you're the creditor. I created the credit. So these people have to pay me back. So they have paid me back. It's in the trust fund, sitting there, waiting for me to collect. Everything you've paid out is sitting in the trust fund. All your speeding tickets and all the rest of it, sitting there, waiting for you to collect. You don't even know the trust exists. So you don't collect. And then when you die, all that money goes to the Rothschilds banking system. You don't even know how this system works.
So it's literally, your birth certificate starts the funding, your death certificate ends the funding. So it's basically just a paper signal.
Yes.
Start and finish.
Oh, let's touch on dog tags as well. You know, you're a military guy.
Yeah.
You had dog tags. Truth behind the dog tags. First of all, it's an insult to soldiers calling them dog tags, okay? Because obviously this is going back for 2,000 years, but it comes from Roman legislation. So the Romans, the elites, if you like, the people at the top, and then you had the plebeians, so they're like the stupid middle class who didn't know, who were illiterate. Well, they were referred to as the dogs. okay? Because a dog is loyal and will do as it's told, but it's stupid. It doesn't understand. So this term dog is an insult. So the people who control the military today use the title dog tag as an insult, but that dog tag is basically, when that gets sent back, it's so they can gain access to your trust fund. It's like a piece of paper. It's like your death certificate. It's like, cha-ching, there you go, stamp, okay, boom. And this is one of the reasons why they have so many wars. And that's why these people behind governments, some of the military are waking up to this. When you realize this, when you start getting into common law, you get into common law, it won't take long, but you'll learn about the trust and you'll learn about your birth certificate, and then you'll learn about all this credit, and you go, oh my God. So what they've been doing, all these politicians over the decades, is sending people to die in wars, including the soldiers, so they can collect. Once you're dead, dog tag comes off, access to the trust fund. And your trust fund, like you mentioned, it starts off when you are born, you're weighed, and then they put that amount of gold into your trust fund. That's why it's, worth your weight in gold. That's where it comes from. That's where that terminology comes from. So if you were 7 pounds 2 ounces, that's put into your trust fund, sitting there. Oh, and you're supposed to collect that when you turn 21. That's why you get given a key. So you get given a key. That's the key to your trust fund. You're supposed to go to the Vatican and say, okay, can I have my gold now, please? No one ever does that. So, you die. The Vatican then get hold of the gold. So it's a sick system. It's been going on for centuries.
It's quite mind-blowing, isn't it? Considering, my parents, in their 60s, and their parents obviously been in the system, parents before them. Obviously, my grandfather, he passed away 97 years of age in 2020. He landed on Juno Beach, like hundreds of thousands of other people went to war. Many didn't come home. And then you've got obviously like Iraq and Afghanistan, massive illegal wars. I think just the fact that Afghanistan, when you've got so many troops, American, British, Canadian, that was sent over there, and in essence it was just to protect the poppy fields, which is ridiculous, which produces about 80% of the world's heroin, and then the money from that goes right back to the top, to the CIA, and then used to fund more illegal wars, and more people die, or suffer horrendous injuries that's life-changing. That for me, that's the hard pill to swallow, not the fact that, like, on the other stuff, it's just like knowing full well. And I was saying it on our tour, when you see like these tiny little villages in Afghanistan, and there was US Marines on the 10-year anniversary of 9/11 showing like the locals like pictures of the towers being hit and saying, this is why we're still here, and like a hearts and minds thing. And they thoroughly believe that, everyone did. But then you look around, and then these locals are like, what am I looking at here? Because they've never had a TV, a radio, any kind of media exposure ever, because it's really archaic living standards in like these villages. So straight away you're asking yourself, like, what are you doing here? How is this protecting people on the streets of Britain? And I've spoke to a lot of people since who've been to Afghan, Iraq, and it was those kind of experiences that really opened their eyes, and got them asking questions. It's quite alarming. But you're right, it goes obviously way back for centuries. The Rothschilds funded both sides of the war, didn't they? To make maximum profit.
Kill as many people as possible so you can gain access to the trust funds. It's mind blowing. So for people watching this, and who watch it for the first time, perhaps, and this is all quite new news, I think the big question is, people are going to be like, holy shit, how much have I got? How do I access it? Like, is there a certain sort of routine or things you need to go through to find out any of that information? Well, that's basically the Holy Grail. Okay, the people behind this have been doing it for so long that they have buried this. It's not like you can just phone up the Vatican and go, hey, Pope, can I have access to my trust fund? And the Pope goes, yeah, sure, we'll pop it in the post for you. No, there is no real path. It's your own journey. Okay, you're going to have to become like a detective in paperwork, and it depends where you were born. It depends what country that Even you might not even have you don't have the original birth certificate at all, by the way. You don't have access to the live one. And you don't even have access to the straw man, the legal fiction, the corporation that they've created. In fact, some people don't even have the copy of that. Some people just have a docket and they think they've got a birth certificate. I go, no, you've got a docket that is then linked to a copy of a birth certificate that is then a copy of another birth certificate, which is your corporation, which then makes reference to the live one, which is probably underneath the Vatican at the moment. You've got to know your stuff.
So just on that one quickly, mate, with the when you mentioned the straw man there, we all have a straw man entity aside, you know, you've got us, then your straw man. It's right to just explain what that means, the term.
Yes, that's right. So what they've done is, now here's something people must learn right now. This is some of the good news, okay? The good news is the people behind government, remember, government does not exist. It's a legal fiction. Government only exists on a piece of paper. That's what a legal fiction is. It's in a contract. Does not exist. People have got to wake up to that. So when they turn around and say, oh, the government's doing this. No, it's not. It's not doing anything. It's the people behind it. This was explained in the film Wizard of Oz. The end scene where you see the hologram and the smoke and the flames and woohoo and all this sort of stuff, right? That's fake. You're not interested in any of that. You get Toto to pull the curtain back and you say, who's this guy pulling the levers? And also in that film, you had the scarecrow. That's the straw man. So they were telling you. You got the Tin Man, which is your tax identity number. Wizard of Oz, Oz, which is the gold. In the original book, Dorothy had silver slippers, silver protection. So they were telling you. So here's the good news. The people behind government cannot force you to do anything. Can't do it. Okay, they can bully you and they can make it, you know, put pressure on you like a dodgy car salesman or whatever, you know, coerce. They can't force you to do it. You must give consent. So you've got to understand that. So we'll go back to the straw man and the corporation. The people behind government know they can't make you do anything. The living, breathing, can't do you, can't touch you, can't do it. They can't put a debt onto you. That would be slavery. Can't do that. So they create a straw man or a legal fiction, or it's actually a corporation. The word corporation comes from corpse, oration, corporation, body, dead body, doesn't exist, doesn't have rights. So what they do is they create a birth certificate. So you've got two birth certificates. You've got the live one, you know nothing about, it's probably under the catacombs in the Vatican, used to create the credit. They then create another birth certificate, but this is the birth of your corporation. This is the all caps name. It's not you. This is where they will apply the surname to you. Okay, this is a surname, serf name, slave name. This slave name is owned by the Vatican. If you accept that surname and you use surname, then you're consenting to be that corporation. You're accepting the corporation. You say, yes, I am a rep for that corporation. I speak for that corporation. That's what they're doing. So everything is applied to your corporation, which is your birth certificate. It's the one you've got at home. If you open the drawer and get your birth certificate, that's the birth of your corporation, not your live birth. So, and then everything is applied to that. Speeding tickets, parking tickets, tax, the whole lot, all of it. And then it's all applied to that. And then you accept it, you consent and say, yes, that's my corporation. I'm responsible for it. Yes, I'm going to pay the tax. I'm going to pay the speeding tickets. Although, if we've got time, we'll touch into the speeding tickets, because when people figure that out, oh my word. I'll give you a little hint. There are no road laws, nor will there ever be. They trick you. They get you to proclaim the law when you sign their contract.
And it's all to do with the term obligation, isn't it, as well?
Yes.
So people use the term, they use the term, you're obliged to do this. Well, obligation actually means choice.
Yes. Well, obligation, I mean, that's right. I have the right to choose if I want to be obligated or not. And I would do that through a contract.
Yeah.
So if I agree in advance, then I will sign a contract with someone else signs it. Yes, now I'm obligated. I've consented. So, and let's touch on mandates if we go. I want to really get this out to people. Anyone?
Yeah, please do.
Yeah.
Mandates are mega important right now.
Oh my God, yes. It's like, come on, people. This is basic contract law. Now, what the government is doing, everything that the government does to you, they are telling you they are doing it to you. It's just you don't have the ability to read or understand the words they're using. So all the terminology that these politicians are using, all the words they are using is only found in contracts. let's just touch on lawful and legal. You've heard this millions of times. It's illegal to do the thing. Well, that is only found in a contract, right? It can only be illegal for you to do something if you sign a contract before. Legal or illegal is only found in a contract. Contract first, legal and illegal second. Legal and illegal does not mean unlawful. It's two separate worlds, okay? So everyone's going, oh, it's illegal. You can't, you have to wear a mask. If you don't, it's illegal. Where's the contract? Where's the contract that I sign with you where I have agreed to this? Doesn't exist. Now, mandates, simple people. You cannot be mandated without a contract. Contract comes first, mandate comes second. So this happens, and you've got to be with someone, a living, breathing man or woman. So your boss. So say it's 2019, your boss calls you in and he goes, right, if there's some sort of medical emergency, we know it's fake, but medical emergency, I would like the authority to mandate you to have a medical procedure, right? And then you would say to your boss, okay, let's have a look at the contract. And you go, okay, that's fine. I agree to that. You sign it. The boss signs it. He goes, right, thank you very much. He puts it away in his drawer. 2020 comes along. Then he says, right, because of this contract that I've signed and you've signed, I can now mandate you to have the jib jab. That's how it works. You don't need to protest a mandate because there's no contract to begin with. Don't protest this stuff. All you've got to turn around and say, who is saying I have to I'm being mandated? Give me the name of the person. Don't deal with legal fictions. Don't, national health or police or government. No, they don't exist. Who? Give me the name of the person who's mandating me and then show me the contract.
Yeah. So this is ideal, obviously, for the people in the NHS, for example, who, although they've said they've dropped the mandates, they are still very much trying to do things through the back door very slyly. Yeah. Like from the middle management, upper management level downwards. Yes. So for somebody in that situation, who's not really familiar with like common law and stuff like that, what would be their first angle of approach?
Okay. This is what we do on a Thursday. On a Thursday night, I do a workshop here in the Midlands. Okay. So I go through all this. I go through basic contract law. Now, when this happens, is the very first thing you need to do is understand that common law, there's people out there looking for this magical common law. You won't find it. It doesn't exist. So people go looking for it. Now, here's the problem. You will find bits of paper on the internet and you'll download it and you think, well, that's common law. Oh, it's not. That's someone else's law. You see, when something is written down, okay, it's written down and someone says, oh, this is law. What do I check? I go, the first thing I ask is, who wrote it? Who wrote it? Mm-hmm. And then the second thing I say is my signature on it? No. So how can it be law for me? It's not. So what's actually happening, this is why so many people get into a mess. They go off on the internet, they download loads of documents and they say, oh, I've got some magical common law. I can now fix my problem. No, you've just entered into someone else's jurisdiction. You've probably got constitutional common law or state common law or Roman common law or even Christian common law or something like that. It's not. Common law is from within. Mm. That's the truth. That's where it comes from. It's your law. Okay, your law. Everyone has their own court. Let's touch on this as well. You've got to get your mindset right. People, you don't go to court. If you go to court, you're in someone else's court, you're in someone else's jurisdiction, you've lost already. Mm. Now, every single person has their own authority, their own court, they make their own law, they have their own jurisdiction, it's your own freedom. When you understand that, this is what being sovereign means, because you know this. He goes, I make the law in my jurisdiction, in my dominion, I make the law. So, you're at work, national health or whatever, and your boss calls you in. Now, the very first thing you should do is you say, okay, boss, what's this about? If you start saying it's about a medical issue, you go, well, I'm going to stop you there because I've signed a contract to work between 9 till 5, Monday to Friday, to operate the widget machine, right? You can only talk to me about this widget machine. You can't talk to me about anything medical, nothing to do with my life. I didn't sign a contract agreeing to that.
Yeah.
So you end the conversation there and then, and you give him a warning. I don't care if he's got a title senior managing director. At that point, I have a higher status than him because he's stepping into my jurisdiction, right? Don't be like, oh, he's my boss. No, he's only your boss within a limited contract. This is how it works. Every single person has your own authority. You have your own authority. That's where it comes from. For someone else to have authority over you, you must give it to them. This is done through contract. And then what you'll do is you'll sit down with your boss at the job interview, and he'll say, right, I need you to work Monday to Friday, 9 till 5, operate the widget making machine, and I'll pay you £500 a week. Okay, you both sign it. There's a contract. The authority that your boss has is just within that contract. He can't tell you on a Saturday night. If he bumps into you on Saturday night in a club and he goes, right, you go and get me a drink. What do you mean get you a drink? I'm not at work. This is outside the contract. Okay. So people have got to understand that. So first of all, national health or anything like that, if you get called into a meeting, the very first thing you do is, what's it about? If they're saying it's about, oh, what's going on? No, stopping it. I'm going to stop you right there. And you say to your boss, if you carry on down this line, you're going to get in serious legal issues. You personally, the boss, give the boss a name, Billy Bob. Billy Bob, you, not the company, you are going to be liable. Now, if he wants to pressure you and says, no, we need a meeting, okay, we'll have a meeting on my terms. I'm going to have a witness, and it's going to be my witness. So you go to the meeting, you say nothing. You go there, okay? By the way, before you have the meeting, you'll say to your boss, right, I'm going to need a letter from you, a note requesting the meeting. Not verbally. I want you send it in writing, sign it, saying you want a meeting with me a week from now. Once I've got that, I'll set the meeting up. I will be there and I'll have my witness, and I'm saying nothing. So you sit there, okay? Let him talk. Jibber jabber, jibber jabber. And at the end of the meeting, you go, okay, everything you just said, put it in writing, send it to me in the post. I want it signed. And now you go after your boss, because now you've got him. If he's stupid, if he actually puts in a letter, I am hereby mandating you to have a medical procedure, he's done. Done.
And this is the thing as well, like so many people in corporate world, education, health, and all stuff like that. Again, they just have no idea about this. So you've got these senior management levels often being funded, by external sources that are putting all this pressure on them and using certain terms like mandating, and you could lose you could have your contract or your employment terminated. And I use examples of lads in the military. I've had so many reach out over the last sort of 9 to 12 months who have been not just coerced, but threatened ridiculously. Senior soldiers as well. They've done 20 years in that. Sergeant majors that have been threatened with their pension if they don't get all their guys and girls jabbed and that. It's just it's horrendous. But the thing is, there's been no kickback on these people because people don't actually fully know where they stand. So it's the same as similar to all the schools being served notice of liability. They're having a certain effect on a lot of schools, because the people within the schools are suddenly well, hang on a minute, my boss didn't tell me I could be in a world of hurt if I did X, Y, and Z. Oh yeah. But this document's clearly showing you. We had a great effect down in Dorset with that, to the point where all the nurses in this area refused to do any jabbing at all because they're worried about going to jail. But again, it takes people to get out there and do that. But from an individual level, majority of people don't know where they stand, or don't have the confidence. Yes. But again, that comes down to years of people's responsibilities just being taken away from them, and everything kind of handed on a plate, and not needing to think for yourself. Everything's so simple nowadays, isn't it? There's an app for everything. Oh god, yeah. There's if there's something wrong with me, I'll just go see my doctor. Yeah. If I get a reaction, it's my doctor's fault. It's something up my car, I'll just chuck it in the garage. Yeah. My washing machine has got an error, I'll pay someone to come out and look at it, rather than just all those responsibilities. Is people in general just lost the ability to take control of their sovereign self. Yes. Again, this is exactly what we're trying to achieve through having people like yourself on and getting that message out there, is that we are so powerful as an individual being. It's unbelievable. It's just unlocking that potential, isn't it? Yes, you're absolutely correct. It does take confidence. And I'm not saying this is easy, by the way. I know I'm watching you. It's if you're going to take a stand, well, that means you're going to overcome your fears. That's what bravery is, by the way. Bravery is overcoming your fears, right? Yeah.
So yeah, it's when I started standing my own ground years ago, yeah, of course it is. It's a bit nerve-wracking, but you get over it and you think, oh, I won that one, and then you get more confident and you take on bigger battles. So it's not easy, but you've got to do it. It's the thing about rights as well, is remember, rights are a package deal. So, but if you want to keep them, only you can keep them.
Yeah.
No one else can do it for you. They're your rights. Okay. So if we've got time, we might touch on that human rights thing.
Yeah, please do.
So here's the thing with rights. There's only one person that I know where I can vouch that they have rights. That's me. I can't vouch for anyone else. I can't do that. I can't point to you and say, you've got rights. I don't have the right to do that. I don't. Okay. So there's no such thing as universal rights. This is another nasty trick that these politicians do. They play. And when the politicians, by the way, when they talk about rights, they're not talking about rights. They're talking about privileges. So let's just touch on the basics, right? We understand that we are born sovereign. Okay, I think as not title, but as status, right? You are born sovereign. However, when you are born, you are actually under the jurisdiction of your parents. So you can't actually exercise your sovereign status. 2-year-old can't decide, let's take the family car out for a spin. So rights, like I mentioned before, rights come with authority, which is your authority. It comes with your court. It comes with your law, and it comes with your jurisdiction. Children don't have any of that because they are under the jurisdiction of their parents. The parents have taken responsibility for the child. Okay. When you reach the age of consent means you can now consent to enter into a contract. That's 16. You are now sovereign. So what your parents will do for you is, when you were born, they take all this authority and law and all this and put it in a little box. And when you turn 16, you go, there you go. There's your authority. You now make your own decisions. You're now sovereign. So when the politicians talk about rights, they're only talking about privileges. Because remember, only children get privileges. They don't have rights because they've got to get permission from the parents. Children have liberties. Oh, is another thing as well. Liberty does not mean freedom. Liberty means privileges and allowances. So people have got to stop using that word thinking it means freedom. No, it doesn't. You're probably, you're in the military. So when you were given shore leave, you were given liberties. Liberty bell, ding, you can have some freedom. Ring the bell again, ding, like freedom's over, come back. That's liberty.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's touch on the Human Rights Act. Everyone's panicking over this. First of all, they're using the word human. Human is color of man. Okay, the word man is the species, it's not the male. It's man who has rights and authority and court, man the species. Because if you go back biblical times, God, I'm not trying to talk religious here, insert your definition of God, but God gave man royal dominion of the planet. Okay, just don't get too religious, but I'm just going to point that out. Anyway, so what that means is that I have royal dominion. Royal means real, so that's real dominion. I have authority. That is applied to man. Man has rights. So what the politicians do, they know they can't touch your rights as man. So they invented the word human. Human, hue, color of man. Color of man is monster, beast, without rights. So they're talking about human rights, and I'm going, well, I'm not human, I'm man. I don't know what they're talking about. So yes, so it's a scam. But the thing is when you become sovereign and you know it, you will know that your rights don't come from someone else anyway. So I could, a bunch of politicians write down some things that they call rights and then apply it to me. Is my signature on it? No, I didn't agree to any of this. So it's nothing to do with me. My rights are inherent within me. I exercise my rights when I'm dealing with someone. They pop into existence when I enter into a contract with someone.
Yeah.
So yeah, this Human Rights Act thing, I was like,
but yeah, again, but I think it's just the terminology human rights is obviously part of majority of people's subconscious because it's been spoken about all their life, since a kid. And I think the main, a lot of the main issues are if like they change this Human Rights Act to their benefit. From what I've read, they basically said that they can send you off to a quarantine camp and all this kind of stuff if there was another pandemic for the greater good. But again, like if you've not signed up to that, there's no contract.
There's no contract. Right now, this is how they get away with it. Let's talk on the contract thing. Now, this contract thing, it's not like a politician is going to knock on your front door and he's going to hand you a contract and he's going to say, do you mind signing this so I can have all your rights and authority? And then you go, yeah, that seems genuine. Okay, I'll sign that. And there you go. You've got my authority and all the rest of it. No, they're not going to do that. So they use deceptive language. They use forms, or don't fill out government forms because most people can't read. And I'm not talking about like English, like they can't read text. The text on these forms sent by government aren't even in English. They're either dog Latin, Glossa, ASL, block language. Take your pick. It's not English. So don't fill out the forms. So what you're doing is if you fill out them forms, because you don't know how to read, you're filling out a completely different form and you're handing over your rights and everything. You're handing over ownership to the government. So people need to understand that. That's how it's done. So you've got to also understand there's no such thing. Governments don't exist. They're a legal fiction, and they're actually a corporation. They're operating as a trust. We won't go into that because that can get a bit complicated, but it's a corporation. Every business that's registered will have a DUNS number, D-U-N-S, can't quite remember. I think it's Universal Number System, Data Universal Number System or something. But every business will have that DUNS number. Okay, it's a bit like a company's house. Parliament has a DUNS number. Parliament is a business, no different than McDonald's. Yeah. It is, that's all it is, okay? So for Parliament to have jurisdiction over you and to apply their policy to you, you have to consent, but they trick you. So they'll do it like, for example, your passport. You'll apply for a passport, and on that, it'll say British citizen. Oopsie, there's the word citizen. The word citizen means you're an employee of a corporation. So if you accept that terminology, yes, I'm a citizen, okay, the police can take you away and all the rest of it because you've consented. Now remember, the UK, everyone says, oh, I live in the UK. Well, I don't. The UK is a corporation. It's like saying I live at McDonald's. Okay.
That would suit some people.
Yes, yeah, exactly. But yeah, UK is a corporation. It only exists on paper. So I live in England on the land, not UK corporation, okay? So if you end up, if you fill out their forms, UK corporation, if you say, yes, I'm a British citizen, okay, then you're accepting the contract. So you're using the word UK, yeah. This is why when you fill out the government's forms, it'll say, UK, and you'll do a tick box, and you're accepting. Yes, I'm a citizen of the UK corporation. Right, okay, now Human Rights Act applies to you because you've consented. And then, yes, they'll come knocking at your door and say, well, are you citizen, blah, blah, blah. Or it can even be as simple as answering your name. Knock on the door. Are you Mr.? Are you Mr. Smith? Yes, I am. Okay, you're going in the FEMA camp. You've consented. Mr., you should not accept Mr. or Mrs. title. That's mercantile law. So if you accept Mr. or Mrs., you have the lowest status within their hierarchical system. Don't accept Mr. or Mrs. You say, I'm not that. That's not my title. Don't recognize that title. And then if they try and use your last name, you say, are you referring to a surname or are you referring to my family name or house name? Have you noticed the people at the very top of this system, they don't have surnames? Queen doesn't have a surname. She has a house name, House of Windsor. Also, you know the Rothschilds, they don't have surnames. Like, I don't know, Gareth D. Rothschild. The D in that name means that's not a surname. So they don't have surnames. The German version is like Hans von Strudelberg or whatever. The von, again, that's not a surname, that's a place. So don't use surnames. Is that a surname? That's not, I don't use a surname. I've got a family name. So that's what they'll do. It's that simple. You'll just contract with them because you'll answer to the name. Okay. And yeah.
Well, that's just like you touched on earlier. Like if you get a speeding fine or a parking fine through, and it comes through, and often it's in block capitals, isn't it?
Yes.
But that's addressed to you, you as a corporation.
Yes.
not you as an individual person.
Yeah, it's your corporation. In fact, they're supposed to, depending on your corporation, whether it's a limited or PLC, they're supposed to put limited or PLC at the end of your name, because in all caps, your last name will be all caps. That's the name of your corporation, like McDonald's or whatever. And then they're supposed to put limited if it's a limited or PLC or whatever it is, right? But they don't, because that would give the game away. Because if people were receiving speeding tickets and it said all caps limited, you know, your last name limited, well, what do you mean limited? And then you'll figure out that's actually a corporation that you don't even know exists. And here's a little trick as well, is that there are no road laws, and there never will be. You cannot do road laws. I mentioned this earlier, because all roads are common ground. All people are equal. So when you're on common ground, common land, one person cannot invent a policy and then force it onto someone else. You can't do that. It would be unlawful. The police don't do that. Police, by the way, only deal in commerce. They don't deal in law. Policy enforcer, police officer, that's where they come from. That's where the name comes from. So what they do is they get you to proclaim the law. It never existed. So they'll pull you over if you get a ticket. The law doesn't exist at this point. Speeding doesn't exist. The officer saying, oh, you were doing 57 and a 30 limit. The law does not exist. He'll give you the ticket. You'll date and sign it. You've now proclaimed the law within a contract. Now it applies to you. And then when they send it through the post, like you mentioned, it's not your name. That's the name of your corporation. So you can send it back unopened. You just say, I don't recognize the addressee because it's all caps. I can't read it. Don't say I don't recognize the name, because that means you've been able to read it as a name. You just say, I don't recognize it. Addressee unrecognized. Send it back. Here's the thing. If you actually took it to court, if you went all the way to court and you took your speeding ticket along and you went to the magistrate, excuse me, magistrate, got a problem here. I've got this sent through the post. Can you read that for me, where your name is? Can you read that for me? Tell me what it is. Magistrate can't read it, because he'll be committing fraud at that point. It's all done through consent. So what it's done is it's presumed consent. So when the police send it to you, they presume that you know that's your corporation. So in their eyes, they're not committing fraud. You didn't raise your hand up and go, hang on a minute. If you turn around to them, especially the magistrate, and say, look, what is this? Can you read it to me? If the magistrate, well, that's you, and he reads it out as your name, he's committing fraud, because you're not presuming anymore. That's how this is how this entire global system operates. All of it operates that way. It's not just speeding tickets, parking tickets, the whole lot. If you question it and go, what's this? And
it's a similar issue, isn't it, that traps you with the DVLA. So you know, because it says like registered keeper, so it's not actually owner, is it?
No.
So I mean, I've seen a couple of guys do some videos where they've like deregistered themselves from the, you know, for your local transport office and the DVLA and stuff like that. Can you just touch on that briefly for obviously the people that are listening, especially here in the UK, in the UK corporation?
UK corporation, that's right.
And just explain, like, if someone wanted to do that, how would you go about it?
Yeah, sure, no problem. In fact, if we could get this out to the truckers, you know, the truckers that's happening at the minute, or what's going on, which I like to see it. You know, it's good for people who are actually getting off the sofas and doing something. But I think the truckers haven't quite woken up yet, because there's a lot of people out there thinking, oh, we want to be free again, you know, before 2020 and all this, you know, jib-jab stuff happened. I said, you weren't free before 2020. Okay, so I don't want to go back to the way it was 2 years ago. But we'll touch on the license plate. When you understand how this works, it's all Mike. So DVLA is a legal fiction. It's a corporation, but it's operating as a trust. All right. Now, in layman's terms, a trust is basically a three-way contract. Okay, so you've got three people in this contract. One's an administrator. In this case, one is a grantor and the other one is a beneficiary. Don't have to go too deep into that now. It's quite complicated. But what you're doing is, everyone needs to understand, is registering anything. If you register anything, whether it's your car, your house, your child, business, whatever it is, you're handing over property rights to that corporation. Now, let's quickly touch on this basic stuff. Everything has either property rights and user rights. For example, this cup, okay, this cup, I own this, so I have property rights and I have user rights, which means I own it, I have the property rights, I also have the user rights, which means I have full use of it. No one can stop me from using it. I have user rights as well. Now, let's say I want to rent this out. So I'll rent the cup out to somebody and I'll rent it to them. I will still retain the property rights. I've got the property rights. It's still owned by me, but I've handed over the user rights to someone else. So someone else is now using the cup and I can't touch that cup now. I've given up my user rights. They have the user rights, but they don't have property rights. So that's the separation of property rights and user rights. Now, what's happening with your car and anything you register, you're handing over property rights to that corporation. So you buy your car. By the way, you need to call it car or automobile. It's probably a better term. Don't use vehicle. It's not a vehicle. A vehicle is terminology used in commerce. So that's why a policeman, when he pulls you over, are you the driver of this vehicle? He's referring to driver as an occupation and the vehicle as a tool used in your occupation. So don't use vehicle. It's your automobile. The word auto means authority, autonomy. It's mine. So my automobile. So you don't have to register it, it's an offer. So well, what happens is people don't understand that. So you register your automobile with DVLA. You've given them property rights. They now have the property rights, they own it now. All you have left is the user rights. You have full use of it, that's it. They will then issue you a license plate. By the way, all the terminology is there, it's in front of your eyes. They call it a license plate, which means you are now using government property under license. License means asking permission. That's all it is. If you need permission from somebody, he says, can I have license to use your thing? Can I have license to use your rights? They call it a license plate. So you've now got a government number attached to your property, or was your property, okay? It's now owned by the government. You've now got a license plate. Now, because you've done this, you are now liable for the highway code. You've accepted it. All of that highway code, the yellow markings on the road, the lot, all the speed cameras, the lot, everything, you've accepted all that now. And furthermore, because you've now got government property, you're going to need permission to use it. So you're going to need a driver's license. So then you go get yourself a driver's license. So you've been tricked. Now, here's the thing as well. Because you're using government property under license, there is tax to pay on the license, not the car. Everyone thinks it's car license, tax, car tax, or whatever. No, it's not. You're actually paying the tax on the license plate. That's what you're doing. In fact, they even call it, they've changed the name. It's road fund license. That's the terminology. And people think, oh, that's for building the roads. Well, no, because your trust fund's already built the road, so it's not that. Listen to the terminology, road fund license. You're funding the license to use the road. They're telling you, but the average person doesn't see it. And they can't read. This is why I say 99.99% of the average people out there are illiterate. They can't read, okay? They don't. So they don't see it. They don't see the terminology. So yeah, so you've heard all this stuff that's coming on the car. They want to do pay by mile. They want to, the ULEZ stuff's coming out, the congestion charge. They want to put kill switches in your car now. They want to put GPS trackers. That's already in. All cars built after 2010 has got a GPS tracker and a logger built in anyway. So all the government's bringing all this out. But you've consented to all this. Everyone's going, oh, we're going to fight against it. And you go, well, no. You've consented. You've licensed your vehicle. It's now a vehicle. You've licensed, you've given away your car. It's a vehicle now. You've done that. So what's the solution? Instead of fighting all that, all the ULEZ stuff and all the congestion charge and the pay per mile and all the rest of it, instead of all that, you say, I'm going to deregister. Thank you, DVLA, but your services are no longer required. I'd like to take my property back now. Thank you very much. So you take your property back. Now, there are people who's done that. There's people driving around now they've done this. Now, you're going to get some heat, clearly, because the police are going to say, oh, look, there's a car driving around with no license tag on. So you're going to get pulled over. So you're going to have to get prepared for that. So you put a notice on where the number plate used to be. And it will say clear, this is private property. If you violate my right to travel, it levies a £250,000 fee. It's on your car. There's a notice. Don't stop me or it's going to cost you $250,000. And then you serve notice to all the police stations in your area. Say, well, I should be now traveling on the common roads. If any of your private policemen actually stop me, it's going to cost you $250,000. Leave me alone. And if you do get pulled over, record it, know how to handle a policeman, know what to say, Get the policeman. You make the policeman liable, by the way. Every single policeman out there has their own indemnity insurance. So if he does anything unlawful, he is personally liable. Okay, so you say, right, okay, what's your name? Okay, this is another thing as well. You know, when the police walk up to you, don't assume they're police. Don't do that. You've been programmed. You've got to break that. So if someone walks up to you wearing a uniform, don't think he's a policeman. He could be a male stripper. I don't know. So he's walking up, he's wearing a uniform, and go, well, hang on a minute, who are you? Before I get into a conversation with you, who are you? The next thing you've got to do is say, what's your name? But this is another trick. Whenever you deal with anybody out there, don't get into a conversation with them until you know their name. If you don't know their name, you can't ascertain obligation. Am I obligated to talk to you if I don't know who you are? No. Bye-bye. Leave me alone. So it's a mindset thing. People have got to get this. They've got to train themselves. They've got to get good at it. It's not easy, but once you get good at it, and it's a journey. Everyone's going to have to go on their own personal journey. But yeah, that's what you're doing with DVLA. You've given all your property rights.
So how do you actually deregister? Who do you contact? Obviously, you said your local police in the local jurisdictions and stuff. Yep. And then what, you just write a letter to the DVLA?
Correct. Notice. You write a notice. Yeah, here's the thing. There's too many people out there looking for paperwork. That's like, oh, how do I do this? How do I do that? Do I get some paperwork? Do I download this? Is there a procedure? Stop all that. It's your procedure. You use your paperwork. That's how it works. You send them notice. And notice is a legal document. It's very powerful. This is within equity law. This is what I like. This is a jurisdiction that I like to use. Okay, when I serve people notices, it's for real. So you would serve, and don't serve notices to legal fictions. You can't serve a notice to DVLA. DVLA doesn't exist. It's only exists on paper, all right? It's just a legal fiction. You're wasting your time. Because if you send a notice to a legal fiction and someone opens it, the secretary, it's just going to get passed around the office and it's going to end up in the bin. Because that means no one is liable. You've got to make a living, breathing man or woman liable. So you would go after the minister who runs the DVLA. They're the CEO. I forgot her name. You can look it up. You'd send it to her personally. A notice. I hereby give you 30 days notice that I shall be terminating the services between me and you. Will be terminating the contract between me and you. I no longer require the services from DVLA. I will be taking back my private property forthwith. And I put some latches in there as well. So if you fail to heed by this notice, you'll be liable for £1 million or whatever. And put time limits. You put, 30 day. Always make it a time sensitive document. So you do words to that effect. You send it off. If you don't hear anything back after that time limit, that latch has happened. That's now a legally binding notice. They are now in default of that notice. Done. If they do respond, if it's not from the person, here's another thing. When you send a notice to someone, if it's not from the person you sent the notice to, and it's from someone else, you send them a cease and desist. I didn't contact you. Why are you contacting me? Cease and desist right now. Otherwise, it's going to cost you 10 grand. I've got no business with you. I don't know who you are. Cease and desist. And then you'll send another letter back to that person at the top. Says, look, you're sending agents to me. I never allowed this. And I'll fine them. I'm sending you another notice. Either you respond yourself, or I'm not entertaining anything from anyone else. And now you're liable. It's your call. This is what people have got to understand. You've got to take back your power. You run things. You tell people how it is. This is how it is. It's in my dominion. Don't mess with me. Get angry, people. There's too many people. Oh, yeah. Do I have to be polite? No, don't be polite. Yeah, don't be polite. You know, when you send your paperwork, don't use please and thank you, and don't use sorry, and don't use I respectfully request. No. Don't use dear. You're not sending a love letter. All right, you're not sending a letter to your nan saying thank you for the Christmas sweater. Be brutal in your notice. They will sniff fear. If you send a notice to someone and a lawyer reads it, they will tell that you're bluffing if you use weak language. Look at, oh no, yeah, we can beat this person. They're bluffing. They're using please and sorries and all this. No, This is how it is. I'm telling you. We've had some great successes here in the Midlands. People are using this now and they're winning, okay? Because some of the people I've been helping, they don't know this, this system, equity law, 6 months ago. Now they do. Now they do.
Yeah, and equity law comes from like the 13th century, isn't it?
That's right. In fact, it goes even back further than that. It's actually 2000. But yeah, it did. It got established in the 13th century. That's right. But it's even referenced in the Bible.
Yeah.
It means equal balance. That's what it is. That's what law is supposed to be about anyway. That's why you've got scales. It's about balance. You can't enforce the law.
Yeah. So, I mean, somebody wanted to use equity law within a court, like straight away supersedes like the very type of law that they're trying to use against you.
Absolutely. See, all courts are corporate. They're all administrative. The McDonald's, all of them. None of these courts are courts of law. None of them. See, here's another thing that people don't understand. Courts don't have any authority. They never have. Okay, this is how it works. The judge does not have any authority whatsoever. The courtroom has no authority. The clerk, none of them have no authority. They can't tell you what to do. The way that the courtroom, if you like, and the people within that courtroom has authority is if there is someone making a claim. That's where the authority comes from. Okay, so if there's a living, breathing man or woman who's going to swear like on an affidavit, making a claim against you, or you're making a claim against them, that's where the authority comes from. So all these courts that people are dealing with now, they're administrative. There's no victim. There's no one making the claim. So you know when you go into court for a speeding ticket, you go, well, who's making a claim against me? Where's the victim? Where's the guy with the affidavit saying he'll swear on oath to God that what I've done to him, I've harmed him? Where's this person? There is no person. These courts have been bluffing all this time because the average person doesn't know how courts actually operate. The police have no authority, zero. They have no more authority than Ronald McDonald, unless you give it. Yeah. Same with bailiffs. Bailiffs have no authority. There has to be someone making the claim, and they will swear to God, on affidavit or whatever it is. They will swear to it. There's got to be a living, breathing man or woman making the claim against you, or it's you yourself. You are making the claim against someone because the authority is coming from you. The judge and all the rest of them, they're just employees. They work for you now. So yes, this court stuff. So police don't have authority, courts don't have authority, bailiffs don't have authority unless you give it.
Yeah, and like we've touched on a few times, it's all to do with language, mindset, the environment that you've been brought up in. Yes. Your surroundings and people you've had in your, around you, and even down to that inner circle has such a massive effect on your belief system. Yes. So this is why I'm trying to do sort of like series of podcasts, which is educating people, adding some solutions to some real problems, but also giving people a real insight as to how badly and how long we've just been duped, like from the day we're born till current, present times. You mentioned like workshops and stuff like that. Like where can people find you, like to obviously dive deeper into this and explore more avenues? Yes.
Well, there's the website, obviously, which is thesovereignproject.live. Okay, that's everyone. It's free. Just log in. We had to put a login onto it because they stopped the bots from doing downloads and all that. So log in. All we ask is a name, whatever you want to call yourself, and just one email address. And if you do log in, you'll be signed up to the newsletter as well. Anyway, there's a whole load of documents on there. It's really easy to read. Okay, it's not like wads of text. It's very simple. You get a little title and a quick paragraph. Boom, it's like a cappuccino. Now I know. Now I can move on. So there's documentation on there. It will show you how to do a notice, how to lay one out. It will tell you the different types of notices. It will show you how to do affidavits. It will show you how to do the lien process. Whole load of. I would strongly suggest you download the document called Plebtorial System. Read that. Because then after you've read that document, you will then be able to read. Because the average people don't. They get summons and all this sent through the post from council tax and all this. And they go, oh, I'm being summoned. And then I look at it and go, that's not a warrant for a summons. It's fake. It's completely fake. There's no signature from a judge. There's no seal of the court. In fact, all the writing on it is on all caps. It doesn't say summons. This is how the people at council tax get away with it. Because they will write it in capitals. If they wrote it in English, then they would be committing fraud because they can't masquerade as a court. So you can't do it in English, like, you know, if I wrote it in English, lowercase, no, I can't do it. So you do it in uppercase. And then people make the mistake of reading it. And no, it doesn't say summons.
Brilliant.
So learn how to read. There's one on there about junk mail as well. So you can send back most of this junk. Most people get into a mess because what happens is they send the letter through the letter comes through the post, they open it up, and then they get pulled in. And that's where they go wrong. When they should be looking at the documentation and going, hang on a minute, there's no signature. I don't even know who sent it. I'll give you another little tip about council tax. The people behind council tax, they are doing something rather, should we say, I don't want to call them out as directly fraud, but extremely suspicious. So what they'll do is when they send a document to you, you'll have a name of the person who sent it to you printed, but that person won't have signed it. It's signed by someone else, and you won't be able to read the signature. So you go, what have I actually got in this document? I don't know who's actually sent it, because what have I got? I've got a name without a signature, and I've got a signature without a name. So who sent it to me? I don't know. So it's going to have to go back. But the average person doesn't know this. So they read their council tax stuff and speeding tickets as well. Look at that. And they think it's a genuine document. I go, no, there's no signature there. You don't know who sent it. If you don't know who sent it, you can't ascertain obligation. If you can't ascertain obligation, it goes back and you charge them. Here's my fee schedule. You sent me a document that I can't read. It is not signed. So I'm returning it with a fee of 500 quid. You now owe me 500 quid for my time. And you start doing, this is a good way to get rid of parking tickets and stuff like that, because you keep adding up, and the fee far exceeds what they're trying to claim off you, like 95 quid. And then at the end, you'll have a bill of like £3,000, and you say, yeah, I'll pay you 95 quid if you pay my bill for £3,000. And then of course the parking ticket disappears.
Yeah, funny that, isn't it?
Yes.
It's and it's a similar situation with mortgages, isn't it? How again, let's just say you go for a 330 grand house, you pay 10%, you know, so you pay your 33 grand, and then, you know, fees, etc. And then you've got like roughly a 300 grand mortgage that's supposed to be lent to you by the bank, but it's actually your own trust fund,
Yes.
isn't it? So you're paying, yeah, it's your own credit. So you're paying interest on your own credit to the banks. Again, like majority of people don't know this, and it's astonishing, really. So I mean, there is a structure in place to be able to claim that back, isn't there?
Yes, that's not easy, by the way. And a lot of people go, "Oh, can I just fill out a magical form and send it off?" No. You've got to know your stuff on that. So, I mean, the mortgage thing as well. It all starts with your actual contract, because at the end of the day, you go, "What have you signed?" A lot of people think they've signed a contract, and I don't think so. Have a look. How many signatures are there on that document that you have? If there's only one signature, you haven't signed a contract. You've signed a service agreement. Now, if you've signed a service agreement, who controls the service agreement? That would be you, because you're the only person with a signature on it. You control it. And this is what I'm trying to explain to people. The system is so fragile. Because these people, they're living, breathing, normal people behind this fraud. They do not want to be liable. So they've not been putting their name to anything. They're putting everything into corporations. When you realize the corporation doesn't even exist, and then you'll go around, you'll go, okay, well, who's liable for this piece of document that I've got? Who's liable for it? They'll start running. They don't want to be liable. So you can go to the mortgage company and say, okay, can you explain this? You can say to the mortgage, one way to do it is you can say, can you tell me if there's another creditor in this service agreement that I should know about? Of course, you're referring to you. You know you're the creditor. And now they're in a sticky situation because they're supposed to tell you who the creditor is. Look, if there's a loan, if you was given a loan, right, if you were given a loan, somebody gave you, you're the debtor, there has to be a creditor. So I'd like to know who the creditor is. Can you tell me who the creditor is? They can't do that because it's a scam. Another way you can get rid of your mortgage is promissory note. So you can write your own promissory note. So you got £300,000 mortgage. You go, okay, then I'll write promissory note out, blah, 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 blah. There you go, I've paid it off. Oh, it's not that simple, people. But go and look up promissory notes. What I hope to do is when people listen to me, I probably said a whole load of things that no one's ever heard of before. Go, what's this? What's this? Right, go and do your due diligence, people. Go and look at Sestu KV Trust. Go on, off you go. Switch your computer on, everybody. Go and look that up. I want people to go on their own personal journeys. Go and look up promissory notes.
What was that last one? What was the last one you said then?
Yeah. Sestuke v Trust.
How do you spell that?
Let me just get the spelling up. It's actually French.
So is that where you can see like your own?
Yeah, well, just dig into the, let me just bring it up. Sestuke v. So it's, I think it's Q-E-S-T. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, it's French. So it's spelled C-E-S-T-U-I, Q, which is Q-U-E, and then V, V-I-E. Sestuke v Trust. So go and look at that. There's a Sestuke v Trust Act. You'll probably find that. And then you'll go off and don't use Google, by the way, people. Use DuckDuckGo or Start Page or Quant or something like that. And you're going to have to dig. It's not like, bing, it pops up. No, you're going to have to put some hours into this and go searching. So yes, look into promissory notes. Look it up. And while you're at it, look at fractional reserve banking, quantitative easing. Look at this. What does all this mean? Okay. Have a look at everything. If I've said something and you've never heard of that before, don't take my word for it. I could be just some crazy person talking on the internet. Don't do that. Don't quote me. All I want people to do is listen to me, and then they go, I've never heard of that before, and then go and do your own journey. That's what I did. When I was getting into this, I would listen to people and they would mention something and go, it'd be like one word. I heard someone talk about fiat currency like years ago. What's this fiat currency? I've never heard of that before. And then I would go off and then discovered fiat currency. And I went, oh my God, we're in a Ponzi scheme. Go and look up Ponzi scheme, people.
Yeah, exactly. It's fascinating, but like there's so much information and so many things and so many pressures put on people. It kind of just bamboozles people, doesn't it? So it's easier to just put your head down and conform and get on with it and be governed.
Yes,
you know, it's a lot easier to basically do that.
Yes.
Thanks very much for coming on the show today, Pete. I think, you know, I'm very sure many of the audience will have gained a hell of a lot of information there. And, you know, I encourage everybody listening to, you know, check out more of your stuff, more of your videos. You check out your website, sovereignproject.live. I'll make sure that goes in the show notes as well. And like, obviously you got your workshops on a Thursday as well, which what time's that at?
Yeah, well, we do that on a Thursday at 7 o'clock. We're pretty much maxed out. We've blown the doors off the venue. Now we are planning stuff. What we're trying to do is it's a lot of work, but we want to open up. We call this the Sovereign Workshop on the Thursday night. It's a Sovereign Workshop. People can come, help with the brainwashing and all the rest of it. I want to set this up all over the country, England, Scotland, and Wales. So we're looking for sort of like volunteers who want to learn this, who are able to get hold of their own venue and want to be able to do a PowerPoint in front of an audience of, say, 100 people once a week. We will supply the PowerPoints, the handouts and all this, and we're putting it together. We're not there yet. We are still working on it. But then you can go and do your own workshop and help others. And eventually your workshop will turn into like a remedy factory. You'll learn all this. And then when you've got issues with people like parking tickets or whatever, you all come together, you all work together, solve the issue. But it's a lot of work. But we are putting it together. And I think we might be doing Zooms as well. We're trying to put a package together where we can do an online thing for everybody in the world, because I think we've got fraternity members in 74 countries now. So it's growing, and they want more information. So we might do Zoom stuff for that. But I don't teach. It's not a course. I don't teach. I don't practice law. I just talk. And if you get information that's valuable to you, great. But don't put it on my shoulders, okay? You know, so don't say, oh, because Pete Stone said you can't do this to me. No, you're still a slave. You're not sovereign. You've got to be responsible for your own life.
Yeah, I think that's the key message, isn't it? Like, especially this last 2 years has taught anybody is like, you know, not just to sort of become more sovereign, but it's that taking responsibility in many areas of your own life. You know, just start with one area and, you know, start improving more and more as you go on. and you'll soon see the difference. I mean, even when we talk about like holistical health, I've taken a much bigger interest in it over the last sort of 12 to 18 months.
Same here.
Having like previous surgery myself, I'm getting some treatment at the minute from this fantastic guy in Dorset.
Okay.
And it's all to do with like your energy systems and your frequency and your body and all this kind of stuff. So just learning about all that is fascinating in itself. But when you actually experience it, you can clearly see that you can understand why their cult system like doesn't like the terms homeopathy, naturopathy, holistical health, all this kind of stuff. They want you in that system where they're chucking you pharmaceuticals, and those large corporations are making an absolute killing like day in, day out off of the enslaved population. It is quite mind-blowing when you really dig into it all and just where everyone's life's been over the last however many years you've been on the planet, to suddenly like learn about what's the real crack is it might be a hard pill to swallow for some people, excuse the pun, but it's something that everyone should know about it. It's it's your right, isn't it?
It is, that's right. But yeah, it's a hard pill to swallow, no pun intended, like you say. I had to change my worldview. Everything that I thought I knew, say 30 years ago, was wrong. Everything from emissions, global warming, it's another scam. Everything. It's like, oh my God, they've lied to us about everything. I don't just research common law, by the way. I did I'm not plugging my book or anything, but I did a book called The System, which is supposed to help people wake up, and I exposed all the lies.
What's it called? The System?
Yeah, the System, Death by 1,000 Cuts. See, this is a problem I had. I started to try and warn people about the coming reset. I said, look, in 2025, they're going to reset this entire system. Around that time, that decade, right? But then I started talking to them, and I said, you do know that we don't use money, we use fiat currency, and it's a Ponzi scheme. And then these people would say, what's a Ponzi scheme? What's fiat currency? What's quantitative easing? How does the stock market work? And they had no knowledge. So because they've got no point of reference, they can't understand the conversation I'm trying to have with them. So I wrote the book. You can read it, and then you get to the end of it, right, now you're ready to go. Now you're ready for the next level, which is the common law stuff. Then you'll understand how the system works. So people get everything wrong because they don't even know how money works. They think they use money. I go, no, you don't. It's not. We don't use money anywhere on the planet. It's a debt-based promissory note. Bonded slavery. So, but yeah, everything's a lie. Time to wake up, people.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Right, Pete, thanks so much for coming on the show, mate, and enlightening all the listeners and viewers from around the world. We've got many people that tune in from Australia, New Zealand, and other Commonwealth countries as well, which is awesome. And no doubt you'll have several new followers and people joining your website and stuff like that to find out more information. So really appreciate your time sharing all that with us today on the show. Guys and girls, if you've enjoyed today's show, please share it with friends and family who will benefit from everything that Pete shared today. Absolutely fantastic. Lots of information about what we really should be entitled to and really should be doing as a sovereign entity. So yeah, I really hope you've enjoyed the show, guys and girls. Please share it. Please subscribe to the AJ Roberts Show on all platforms: Spotify, Apple, YouTube, Rumble, BitChute, and obviously my Telegram channel. So if you just type in @AJ Roberts Show, you'll be able to get it all up. But from me and Pete, enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you very soon again on the AJ Roberts Show. Take care.